Now, many of you with keen eyes will have noticed that Mission 13's Glacier Guns actually provides a little snapshot of the game's past, with what looks to be a red tank being pictured alongside the shelter. In the current game, there are actual visual clues that tell us the location of these old assets, but what did they actually look like? Well, for starters, the tank is actually an Aqua tank, and it is very, very red. Like, basically the whole thing, top to bottom, wheels and all. It's still exactly the same design, there's no additional features or anything. It is your standard Aqua tank, it's just, you know, really goddamn red. So seeing as it's here, I figured why not play through the level and see how one Aqua tank would come up against a team of 5 pigs that all have pillboxes. Now, first thing to kind of majorly note about this match is that I don't really position myself out on the water too much, mainly because I just didn't really see the point of it. Strategically, yes, it would make more sense to do so, but I tend to stay up and close and personal when playing against pillboxes, seeing as I have a set amount of damage that is done by my onboard bazooka and mortar, but the mortar does pitiful amounts of damage as I have mentioned before, so let's not even go there. So the pillboxes, Jesus, the pillboxes, obviously the main difference at this point is the crazy ass machine gun. I mean, do I really have to say anything else? Even though the bullets aren't as widely spread out as they are in today's game, the pillbox's aim is still pretty bad when it comes to mid to long range, which is handy for me seeing as I only have 150 armor, but I find the main thing for me is actually seeing this vehicle being used in single player. As we know, the Aqua tank was kind of demoted to multiplayer duty and it never saw the light of day when it came to campaign missions, which, yeah, on the one hand does kind of suck because that vehicle could really have been utilized in other missions, but then you have to consider the advantages that are given to players that use it compared to the multitude of disadvantages to those who don't have their hands on an Aqua tank. You also have to consider the certain sizes of certain maps that actually have water and whether or not they were really viable to use it. The additional 150 armor in itself is enough, to be honest, and when it comes to Hogs of War and the use of tanks, either everyone gets some or no one does at all, and it's evident in missions like Just Desserts where both teams get the opportunity to use them, and of course we have talked about it in terms of the design document for the game, which basically stated that both teams should have an equal opportunity to use any type of vehicle on the battlefield, which is fair enough, I suppose. It is indeed worth noting that it was a fairly significant design choice with, you know, the tank actually being red. I say this because at this point in design and development, in multiplayer, the Aqua tank still has the same colour palette as we see in today's game, which means that the red Aqua tank was a separate choice and indeed design. Having said that, this is the only instance we can see of the Aqua tank having any form of development, but throughout this gameplay my primary focus has just been on the Aqua tank. My other teammates are really just there in the background and are mainly used to whittle down the health of the enemy, basically to show how the average game would play out, so I'm not being all try-hardy and I'm not being too terrible. An even balance, if you will. But I think that for me, the key issue here is that yes, okay, there is 150 armor, but the weapons you use are just very linear. The only thing you can do differently with the Aqua tank is positioning. Other than that, it's just the same outcome of the constant 40 damage if you're going to be dealing maximum damage at any given time with the bazooka. Again, just completely ignoring the mortar because it just completely sucks, it really does. But Hogs of War has survived this long because it has a wide variety of mechanics, weapons and overall choices that the player can choose and make. So when you've had a long match or you're going through with a long match and there's a long match ahead of you and you're facing up against an enemy that in total has 500 armor that you've got to whittle down and get through, it can just take a toll and it becomes very dull very fast, even more so when you know the max damage and it basically just becomes a game of numbers. Unfortunately, I do end up having my Aqua tank destroyed, but I think I can call it a win considering that all the enemy pigs are pretty much taken care of despite a hairy ending to the match where one of the enemy pigs got his hands on an airstrike.
My God! Okay, it's happening!
But other than that, I finished things off by utilising the anti-pillbox mines and everything is all good. Even without being all super try-hardy, I did manage to keep all my pigs intact, but I'm sure this mission would be a lot different if I had it on hard mode. Either way though guys, that's pretty much going to wrap everything up. I hope you enjoyed today's video. What do you think of the red Aqua tank? Do you think it would have worked in single player? I know we've talked about this vehicle before, but it's always interesting to see how stuff would have been, how it would have played out, and how it would have worked in today's game. I did of course make a video on the Aqua tank before, so if you haven't seen that, I suggest you check it out. The link to it will of course be at the end of this video, but in the meantime let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's get discussion going as we always do, and in the meantime I will catch you guys later for the next one.